سبحان الذي أسرى بعبدي ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. وآتينا موسى الكتاب وجعلناه هدى لبني إسرائيل ألا تتخذوا من دوني وكيلا ذرية من حملنا مع نوح إنه كان عبدا شكورا. وقضينا إلى بني إسرائيل في الكتاب لتفسدن في الأرض مرتين ولتعلن علوا كبيرا. فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا. ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليهم وأمددناكم بأموال وبنين وجعلناكم أكثر نفيرا. إن أحسنتم أحسنتم لأنفسكم وإن أسأتم فلها. فإذا جاء وعد الآخرة ليسوءوا وجوهكم وليدخلوا المسجد كما دخلوه أول مرة وليتبروا ما علوا تتبيرا. صدق الله العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, before we start, the Imam of Masjid al-Tawheed, Sheikh Hassan, is going to say a few words, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My name is Imam Hassan and I am the Assistant Imam at At-Tawheed Islamic Center, working under the direction of Sheikh Ala As-Saadawi. On behalf of At-Tawheed Islamic Center, we welcome YM to At-Tawheed Islamic Center. Alhamdulillah, we are very, very excited for this event, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Not just because JCYM is here, but also there is a number of YM neighbor nets here, and we are very, very happy. And we commend the decision of the New Jersey North Regional YM of making this decision of choosing Masjid al-Tawheed. So I really commend this decision, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you, and we are very, very grateful to you for that. YM, as the largest youth organization in the country, focusing on empowering the youth and preparing them to be leaders for tomorrow, Masjid Tawheed is very, very proud to welcome YM to the masjid here today, alhamdulillah. And we share this vision with you, and we want to welcome you with open arms and to give you the message that Masjid al-Tawheed is going to be your partner, inshallah ta'ala. And Masjid al-Tawheed is going to be hand in hand, step by step with you, inshallah ta'ala, to helping empower our youth and to become the leaders for tomorrow. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Today's event, alhamdulillah, in regards to civic engagement regarding this issue of Palestine that's happening around the country and around the globe. We have a younger generation here, but we are witnessing what is happening in college campuses, not only in the United States of America, but internationally. And how those youth, how pressure tactics are being used against them to silence their voices. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, one of the greatest forms of jihad is to speak truth to power. And this is the greatest thing that you and I can do here in this country, because we have the freedom to do so. But we understand that that freedom is being trumped. But that should not silence us, that should not cause us to back down. Rather, for us to stand up, for us to feel that, okay, we have organizations and we have others behind us to empower us, bi-idhni Azza wa Jal. This issue of Palestine, which is portrayed to be a very, very complicated issue. So complicated that it's been 75 years and has still not been resolved. But the reality is, it is not a complicated issue. It doesn't require for you to be a politician or for you to have a degree in politics or journalism for you to figure out this issue. Rather, it's a very, very simple issue that started in 1948 when Zionist militias began pillaging and massacring Palestinians. There were 33 massacres, killing 13,000 Palestinians and driving out about 1 million Palestinians from their homes to become refugees who have not returned up until today. 55% of Palestine was forcefully taken from the Palestinians. 55%. Could you imagine this? And it was given to people that didn't even live in Palestine. They were not even in Palestine. Given to Europeans to come in and take those houses that didn't belong to them. 55%, majority. And when Palestinians stood up and resisted, then you just heard what happened. And then they were driven out. And then in 1967, another 22% was taken from them. And from then on, what happened? Well, a system of apartheid was established in the new state called Israel, which was established in Palestine. And ever since, settlements have been expanding until today, Palestine is almost erased from the map. You cannot see it. Type on Google Palestine, you're not going to find it on the map. Palestine is not a country on the map anymore. So who has been trying to wipe out whom? It wasn't the Arabs trying to wipe out Israel. The only country that has been wiped out from the map is Palestine. As voices become louder, and wallahi, subhanallah, you see what happened on October 7th? And how this whole issue shifted. The whole narrative shifted. And the whole world is finally aware of what had been happening for 75 years. And now the whole world is speaking louder than ever. And as that is happening, the opposition, the propaganda opposition is getting even stronger to shut these voices, to silence these voices. So today's event, alhamdulillah, civic engagement, how you can get involved. How as young people we can get involved, we can be informed, we can make the right decisions. Because wallahi al-azim, you, the young people, are going to bring the change. You are going to bring the change. Those born and raised in America, your voices, your votes are going to bring the change. Because this country works with votes. You are going to tilt the balance, inshallah ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless this event. We thank once again YM for coming here, alhamdulillah. So give all of yourselves a big round of applause, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khairan, barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Hassan. Before we start, just a couple of quick announcements. Firstly, if you drive a black Subaru Impreza license plate V33 UCE, please move your car. You're parked in the middle of the parking lot and you are blocking people. There are people out there that are directing parking, so refer to them as to where to park, inshallah. Secondly, this one is just for the brothers, but YMC registration and hotel spots are still open. Proceed with your respective coordinator for the password and the website link. There are no more bus spots, but this first come, first serve, limited spots. Also, retreat sign up, inshallah, is going to come out at the end of May, so stay tuned for that. And before I hand the floor over to Brother Jim, I'm just going to give a quick and brief introduction and background of him. Brother Jim Seuss is currently the director of the New Jersey chapter of the Council for Social Justice. Jim was born and raised in Pasadena, California, where he attended Sunday school at an Episcopal church. He graduated from the University of California at Berkeley with a bachelor's degree in economics in the year of 1977. Shortly after he graduated, he moved to New York City, where he worked for IBM in product management and marketing for 20 years. In 1995, he was introduced to Islam by a coworker at IBM, and he converted to Islam that same year. In 2008, he became the executive director of the New Jersey chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is more commonly known as CARE. And Jim spent a total of 7 years as the executive director of CARE, and just recently in 2021, he joined the team of ICNA CSJ. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you, brother.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Jim Seuss. I think a lot of people know me as the former executive director of CARE New Jersey. If you don't, that's good. We can just be introduced this way. So today's workshop is going to be basically about civic engagement and specifically how it pertains to the situation in Palestine today. We are going to talk about voting. I see a lot of people here look like they're probably too young to vote. How many people here are 18 or over? Okay, alhamdulillah. And I assume you're all registered to vote? Like 3. Okay. All right, we'll show you how to get registered to vote, inshallah. I'm going to talk some of what I'm going to talk about will look a little bit like too much detail, okay, maybe some boring detail. I think we can all agree that we have a certain position as regards to the situation in Palestine today. And our position is not necessarily winning, okay, in the political forum. The other side is winning in the political forum, correct? Okay. The other side, A, has a lot of money that they dedicate to this, and B, they are masters of the boring details, okay? They're masters of the details about how the system works. So when I get a little bit into some details that don't look that interesting, it's because I'm trying to kind of give an idea of the kinds of things that someone would have to become a master of to start to be able to really move the needle as far as, you know, the political discourse here in this country. Okay? Without further ado, let me see if this works. Okay, so first thing I'm going to get into is understanding the various levels of government in the United States, from federal all the way down to municipality. Who has jurisdiction over what, and where do I go to address my issue? Okay, today we're talking a lot about the issue of the situation overseas in Palestine, but we all have other issues sometimes that need to be addressed by government entities. Then I'll talk about how you best make your voice heard, which avenues have the best impact, and which efforts are really just a matter of being, a symbolic gesture, which may not have much impact on moving the issue. Okay, so these are basically the levels of government. At the top, let's say, we have the federal government. The federal government deals with foreign affairs, which is where the situation in Palestine falls under. It also deals, of course, with national defense and a lot of other things. But these are the things that really will concern us. At the state government level, we have the State Department of Education. Okay, they don't really rule over everything education-wise, but there is a Department of Education. They have the state police. At the state level is the criminal code. Okay, so within the state of New Jersey, there are laws about what is a crime, etc. A lot of people are surprised to hear that murder is not a federal crime. Okay, it's against the law in every state of the union, and every state has slightly different laws about what constitutes murder and what the penalties are. But most of the criminal law is at the state level, and your state legislators pass those laws. It also deals with transportation, and there is a division on civil rights at the state level. They try to defend the civil rights of protected population segments. Protected would be your religion, your race, your national origin. Okay. Below the state is the county government. The most interesting thing to us about the county government is that they run the elections. Okay. If you register to vote, you register with your county clerk. The county clerk was responsible for running the elections and publishing the results and all that. And that's important to us when it comes to civic engagement, especially with this current issue. They also have the county sheriffs. County sheriffs, they train local police. If you have an issue with the way your local police have been trained, maybe they've gotten the wrong idea as far as terrorism and Muslims and that kind of thing, the problem is likely back up at the sheriff's level. The county governments run the courts, and they run parks and recreation, that kind of thing. Then between county and municipality, you have school districts. A lot of school districts are aligned with municipalities, but some school districts are larger than a single municipality, so that's why I put it in between. And they're of course responsible for the curriculum that's being taught in the schools and holidays. If you want your school to take off the Eid, okay, close down the school for the Eid, you go to your local school district. You don't go to the state, you don't go to the Congress, you go to your local school district. And then you have municipalities. They run the local police and fire, and they run municipal courts that enforce municipal laws. By the way, if you have any questions, you don't have to save it till the end. Go ahead, raise your hand, and we'll deal with it right when it comes up, inshallah. Okay, so with regard to Palestine, okay, some town councils have passed resolutions calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. So a few town councils in the state of New Jersey. This is largely symbolic. Okay, it really, frankly, has very little impact on what's going to happen as far as the U.S. support for the Israeli government in that situation. But some people, they're working on it. It kind of feels good, but it's the towns are, of course, outside the jurisdiction of foreign affairs. And then, again, with regard to Palestine, the local police departments basically are responsible for maintaining law and order. So if there's a protest in a certain municipality, it's the local police that will determine how those protesters are treated. School districts, basically, they could be responsible for a biased curriculum, they could have biased teachers, and they may crack down on displays of support for Gaza or Palestinians. And then the county government, again, the county government runs the elections, okay? Each county is different. The methods are different, the machines they use are different, the ballots can be a little bit different, and the services that they subscribe to count the ballots are different. So something that's true in Bergen County is not necessarily true in Hudson County, is not necessarily true in Essex County. But they all have to count the votes and report the results. I'll come back to this because we're going to talk more about voting uncommitted in the primary and write-in votes. There's been a lot of talk about those two things with regard to the situation in Palestine, and I want to try and clear some things up, inshallah. Okay, state government. It has very limited impact on foreign affairs. New Jersey, the state of New Jersey has passed an anti-BDS law. Does anyone here not know what BDS stands for? Okay. Boycott, divestiture, and sanction. It refers to boycotting Israel, okay, or divesting from Israeli companies or sanctioning Israel. So the state of New Jersey has passed a law that says that if a company boycotts the state of Israel, the state pension fund, which is a big, big bucket of money, cannot invest in that company. And it actually happened that Ben & Jerry's ice cream shut down a store or two in the West Bank as a matter of protest against the way Palestinians are being treated. So that's essentially, they were engaging in the boycott. And so the state pension fund divested themselves of the parent company, which was Lever Brothers. And that's about the only time I've seen this law come into effect. There are other states that have more stringent laws about anti-BDS. But when you say BDS, you're talking about essentially boycotting Israel. Okay. There was a resolution calling for a ceasefire introduced in 2023 in Trenton at the state level. Okay. If the state of New Jersey calls for a ceasefire, again, it's largely symbolic. Joe Biden doesn't have to pay attention to that. So it doesn't necessarily have an impact. It may be something that, influences someone somewhere, but it's not really, the state of New Jersey does not really have foreign affairs responsibilities. So this bill died in committee, and it hasn't been introduced in the new session. This is the 2022 to 2023 session. We're now in the 24 to 25 session, so the bill hasn't been reintroduced. But again, it's largely symbolic. Okay. And now federal government. Okay, so the federal government has the State Department. If you notice, if you watch the news, our Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, is the guy most often on the news negotiating with the Israelis about this, that, or the other thing. You should know, does everyone know, have you seen Anthony Blinken, heard of him, or seen his picture? Okay, yeah, nod your head. Okay. All right, he is our Secretary of State. He is the grandson of Maurice Blinken. Maurice Blinken was very instrumental in establishing the State of Israel back in the 1940s. Okay? So Anthony Blinken has grown up in this family that's always been essentially very strong supporter of the State of Israel. Rather, of course, Joe Biden knew this when he picked him to be Secretary of State. So you can view Anthony Blinken that way when you see him talking on TV. Of course, now we have the Department of Defense, part of the federal government. They have close ties to the IDF. There's a lot of exchange of technology and that kind of thing. Of course, there's a lot of weaponry that we send over there all the time, especially more now. But every year, the United States grants Israel about $3 billion in military aid and has been doing this for decades. So we take taxpayer money, okay, $3 billion. Now, we essentially have to borrow that money because we're running at a deficit. The United States is running at a deficit. We have this huge national debt, which you've probably heard about. Israel also has a national debt. Our per capita national debt is actually greater than theirs. So in a sense, they're in better shape than we are, but we're still sending them $3 billion a year. Okay? This kind of gives you an idea of the kind of influence that the pro-Israeli lobby has in Washington. Okay? If anyone has any questions about that, we can go deeper into that, but it's pretty well known. So then you have the legislative branch, the House and the Senate. They control the purse strings. Okay? So when we allocate the $3 billion a year, they're the ones that have to re-vote this law or this little allocation every year. They're also the ones that had to vote additional money since October 7th, which has been to the tune of $20 billion. So they've been involved in this allocation of additional funds to Israel since October 7th. The legislative branch, the House and the Senate, control the purse strings. Okay, essentially Joe Biden can't just write a check for anybody who wants it. It has to be, essentially approved by the legislative branch. Okay, so in this environment, how do you make your voice heard? Okay, first and foremost, and the least you can do is just vote. Okay, so if you're 18 or older and you're a citizen, you need to register to vote, and you need to show up and vote. And you don't even have to show up and vote. You can ask for a mail-in ballot and just do it by mail. They've made it very easy. Beyond voting, which is just something that happens every couple of years or so, you can email your representative. There are a number of activist organizations that make it very easy to email your representative, and we'll get into that a little bit later. After that, I mean, next level up is you can write a letter. If you sit down at your kitchen table and write a handwritten letter and send it to your congressman, they really pay attention to that because they know the effort you went into to actually handwrite a letter, put a stamp on an envelope, and all that. It's a little more effort than actually just clicking and sending an email. And then taking the time to make a phone call even has more impact because you're not going to talk to the congressman. You're going to talk to their staff. But you're going to tell them, look, I don't like what's going on, whatever. I see there's a bill coming up for a vote. I really would like them to vote this way. And I live in their district, okay? I'm a constituent. And they know constituents vote, so they care what you have to say. And then beyond that, you can schedule a meeting. The representatives have offices in the district. So they have offices here in New Jersey, and they also have offices in Washington. So you can meet them either place. It's easier here. I'll get a little bit into some coordinated, organized meetings in Washington that recently took place. And, well, there, in the USCMO, anyone know who USCMO is? United States Council of Muslim Organizations. Okay. They organized a Muslim Advocacy Day. This was just last weekend, or last week, whatever, earlier this week. It was on the 29th and 30th, 2 days. There are 12 Congress people representing the people of New Jersey. I think most of those people were met with by a delegation from New Jersey of Muslims. That was about 20 people. And they talked, of course, about the situation in Palestine, humanitarian relief, and, the student protests and all, all those things. Any questions about that? Did anyone hear about that? Okay. So, your vote. Let's start with your vote. There's primaries, and then there's the general election. Okay. The primary election is conducted for the benefit of the two parties. Okay. So the purpose of the primary is to determine the Republican candidate for president or whatever office, and the Democrat candidate for that office. If you'd like to vote, now when you register to vote, you can register as a Democrat, or you can register as a Republican, or you can register as a Green Party, or you can say unaffiliated, okay? If you want to vote in a primary, you have to register either Democrat or Republican, because you're going to vote in one of those two primaries, okay? Now, you just want to, I'm going a little bit of detail about this because there is some relevance here to the situation in Palestine. In the presidential primary, you're voting for delegates who will represent you at the party's national convention. So you're not literally voting for Joe Biden, you're voting for a delegate who's going to be committed to voting for Joe Biden when he gets the convention, which I think is July. I'll come with that in a second. Now, because you're voting for a delegate, there is such thing as an uncommitted delegate. So there is such a thing as voting uncommitted. That does not hold true for the general election. I'll get into that a little bit more. So the New Jersey's primary election will be on June 4th. I'll get into the deadlines as far as when you have to register for that if you want to vote in the June 4th primary. Okay, so I just talked about delegates. I just talked about the National Convention. So this year, the Democratic National Convention will be in Chicago, August 19th to the 22nd. New Jersey will be sending 146 delegates, okay? In this picture here, these people are all the delegates. That's the stage where the speakers are. But there's about 3,000 people, 3,000 politically oriented people that show up. Basically, Joe Biden or whoever would need 1,968 delegates to win the nomination, okay? There's already been a number of primaries. New Jersey's is until June 4th. There have been a number of primaries. As a result of those primaries, Joe Biden already has enough delegates to win, okay? He's already got over 1968. So he will be, everything is just going through the motions. He will be the nominee, and inshallah, save any unforeseen circumstances. So you might ask yourself, well, then why would I even bother to vote in the primary? Well, first of all, this is a actual mail-in primary ballot for June 4th for Hightstown Borough, which is, can't see what county, it's in Mercer County. So you're voting for the candidate for the Democratic Party for president. This is for Senate and for Congress, and then some other local offices, okay? Now, what's interesting about this ballot is that if I zoom in on the president's deal, okay. Oh, excuse me. This is the Republican ballot. Just want to show this for fairness. You can see it looks very different. The ballots are essentially designed by the party, so they will look different. Let me go back. Here we have the option to vote uncommitted and also a write-in vote. Okay, in the Republicans' ballot, there is no uncommitted option. It's just their choice. Okay. Now, if I jump in here at the bottom, the uncommitted option was something that was advocated for by a socialist group here in New Jersey. And when you petition to have a person or uncommitted put on the ballot, you're allowed to designate a slogan. Like you can say, student loan forgiveness is what I'm about, or whatever. Civil rights are all important. Well, the slogan here was justice for Palestine and permanent ceasefire now. Okay, so it's making it pretty clear what the purpose of getting uncommitted on the ballot is here. Okay, so uncommitted means you're voting for a delegate who's going to go to the convention who won't be committed to vote for any one candidate or another. He'll be able to make up his mind when he gets there. But in fact, reading the slogan, you know what this vote is about. Okay, so this is a possible reason to bother. Joe Biden's already going to be the nominee, but so why bother in the primary? This is a possible reason you may want to bother to register and vote in the primary on June 4th. Okay, the uncommitted vote has been a popular tool in many states, in Michigan in particular, to essentially register a protest vote against Joe Biden and the way he's been handling this whole situation in Palestine. Okay, so we have that opportunity here in New Jersey, inshallah, if that's what you choose to do. And that's on, June 4th. Okay, so people also talk about write-in votes. So the Democratic primary ballot has uncommitted option. It sends a message. The slogan has been written to send that message. There will be no such thing as an uncommitted option on the general election, because the general election, you're not voting for delegates, you're voting for the actual candidate. On the ballot in November, which is the general election, there will be a Democrat, a Republican, and some number of third-party candidates, and also in New Jersey, a write-in option. Okay, so in the past, there's been some elections, actually specifically in Trenton, where there was a write-in option, and there was sort of a grassroots effort, and people said, look, check write-in, and then you write in Free Palestine, or Ceasefire Now, or Joe Gaza, something like that, okay, as a way to send a message, okay? There's a problem with that, and the problem is it doesn't really send a message because the write-in votes are not read, okay, in most counties. So no one will know that you did that. They just total the write-in votes, and if the number of write-ins is small enough that it has no impact on the outcome of the election, they don't take the time to read, okay, because the ballots are read by machines, and the machine can read the fact that you circled the write-in thing or filled in the write-in circle, but it would take human intervention to see what you actually wrote in, and that's expensive, and why bother? We know, this other guy won. So I'll just go here. Here is the 2020 county official results for this was the last presidential election. So if you go to the county clerk runs all the elections, you go to the county clerk's website, and you'll see that, okay, Joe Biden got 181,000 votes. Okay, there were write-ins, they call personal choice, of 608 votes. Okay, so those 608 votes don't impact anything. Why would I pay someone to go through and read who they voted for? And by the way, historically, a lot of these write-in votes end up being Mickey Mouse or Santa Claus or something like that. So if you do a write-in vote and you write in, Free Palestine, odds are the machine can't read it. It's just going to say, oh, it's a write-in, and then it's not going to get handed off to someone to go read it. If it does, the results actually might come out a couple of weeks later. But everyone knows all the news about the election is the next day. We want to know the results the day after the election. 2 weeks down the road, we already know who won. You know, any more detail about election results? Not that interesting. I'm just saying this because you'll probably hear from friends in, you know, WhatsApp chats. Oh, write in Free Palestine. It will send a message. And you can go and say, no, it won't. No one will know. So anyway, that's why I went into the, you know, so much detail on this. So we also, in the 2024 election, we're going to vote for the President of the U.S. in November. One of New Jersey's 2 senators, every state gets 2 senators. They serve it, so the President, of course, serves a 6-year term, a 4-year term. Senators serve a 6-year term. We'll also be voting for the Congress people. They always serve just 2-year terms. There are 12 congressional districts in New Jersey, and there'll be various local offices. These are the 12 congressional districts, okay? So you'll notice that some of these districts are a lot larger than others. They're all designed by population. So those big districts are just areas where there's very thin population. Now you'll also notice that this is the congressional districts from 2022 to 2031. Okay, so it's a 10-year period. Every 10 years we do a census in the United States, and the census counts all the people, but also where they live. So it's based on the census that they draw these lines. So after 10 years, they have to redraw the lines. You have a question? 12. So there's 12 Congress people, 2 senators. So in the Electoral College, New Jersey gets 14 total votes. And by the way, yeah, I heard. So New Jersey has about 9 million people. And for those 9 million people, we get 3 Electoral College votes. I don't know if you're all familiar with the Electoral College, but the Electoral College is where the way the president's elected, okay? It's not by popular vote. So whoever wins in New Jersey, like Joe Biden, he got the most votes in New Jersey, he'll get 14 Electoral College votes, representing 9 million people. Wyoming has 300,000 people, the whole state, and they have 1 congressman and 2 senators. So they get 3 Electoral College votes. So they get 1 Electoral College vote for every 100,000 people. New Jersey gets one Electoral College vote for about every 700,000 people. So right there you can see it's not fair. Okay, so if anyone ever talks to you and says we should abolish the Electoral College, you should agree with them because it's not fair, especially for states like New Jersey. Any other questions? Okay, so important dates. Inshallah, the primary elections on June 4th. Registration deadline is May 14th. This all information, of course, is on the web, and I'll show you some links where you can find this. And then for the general election, it's in November. Registration deadline is in October. And you can also, there's a deadline for requesting a mail-in ballot and mailing it in. Okay, so important information for voting. Am I registered? I think I am. I'm not sure. I forget. Like I signed some papers at Six Flags a couple of years ago. I think that was getting registered. So if you want to know if you're registered, if you want to know where you're supposed to vote, or how to register, or how to vote by mail, if you go to icnanj.org/vote, scroll down, there's buttons for all these things. So you can find out you can register online, and then you can find out where to vote and how to get a mail-in ballot and all that. Okay. Now, so that's all about voting. Now I'm going to talk about how to make your voice heard between elections. Any questions about voting? I kind of went into some detail. Yeah. Yeah. Citizens over 18 or over. Apply for citizenship. Inshallah. Any question? All right. Okay. So you don't have to wait around for every 4 years for an election or every 2 years. Your representatives deserve to hear from you. Okay. Their job is to represent you, and they need to hear from you. You can let your legislator know how you feel about things by sending a letter or sending an email or a lot of things. There's 2 things you need to know. Who is your legislator? Can anyone here name their congressman? Who's your congressman? Oh, no. Sorry. Yeah. It just that he's not that sympathetic, right? He's a senator. No, he's ex-governor. Thank you, Cheryl. All right. Go ahead. Oh, okay, Bill Pascrell. Yeah, he's facing a opponent in the primary, Mohammed Karula. All right. All right. He's down south a bit. He's running for Senate now. He's going to be in the primary for the Senate. Okay. Yeah. Who? Oh, okay. I don't think it's a congressman. Okay. So, if you want to contact your congressman, first of all, you need to be able to identify who your congressperson is, and then identify an issue that's important to you, and then let them know how you feel about that issue. Okay. So there. Go ahead. Payne, Donald Payne Jr. Yeah. Well, don't send me email. No, I know. No, he was good. I met him a few times. Well, usually what happens is the state legislature replaces him on a temporary basis till the next election, and the next election is going to be in November. So I don't know if they're going to be able to replace him before November, or just going to wait till November, or what they're going to do, to tell you the truth. But that was a shame. That was too bad about Donald Payne Jr. I bet it was crowded. Yeah, no, he was actually a good congressman. Okay, so if you do want to contact your congressman, if there's an issue that's important to you, there are many activist organizations that can help you. So I'm going to talk about these activist organizations. If you're interested, what you really want to do is either subscribe to their email newsletter, or follow them on Facebook or Instagram, or whatever is your choice. Excuse me. So these activist organizations have informative websites. They distribute timely newsletters. So if you want to know, 10 minutes? If you want to know what's the latest development in this whole area, they do sponsor events like protests and rallies and events like this, and they provide action alert services. An action alert allows you to easily go to a website, click on a few buttons, and send your representative an email that says, this issue is important to me, this is my opinion, please vote against this bill or for this bill, for example. So, but just to give an example, an organization called Engage Action recently issued an action alert that said, stand up for peaceful protesters at Columbia University. So you've probably heard about the protests that have been going on the university campuses. At Columbia, they called in the NYPD. There was some real rough handling of the protesters, and Engage was putting together a petition that would go to Columbia's administrative staff and say to stand up for them. Around the April 17th, 18th, there was a bill that came up before Congress that was going to provide more billions of dollars to Israel. Empower Action, which is another organization, said action alert, tell Congress no more funds for genocide. AGP Action said tell Biden no more funds for Israel's war. And CSJ New Jersey, my organization, we issued an action alert, tell Congress to vote no on the Israel appropriations bill. So this is a specific bill, and it was scheduled to come up for a vote on a specific date. So the timing was right, and all these organizations got out to their constituents and said, contact your representative and tell them to vote against this bill. So that was the good news. The bad news is the bill still passed. Okay, so the money's going. But at least we had our voice heard. They know that there are constituents that disagree with the decision to send Israel another $18 billion. Now, I don't know have you heard of UNRWA, okay, United Nations Workers Relief Agency. There was some scandal about the Israelis claimed that some UNRWA employees were involved in the attacks of October 7th. As a result, a lot of countries rescinded their funding of UNRWA, including the United States. Later, it came out that these employees were pressured into confessing something they didn't do, yada, yada, yada. So a lot of the countries like Germany and others have reinstated their funding for UNRWA. The United States has not. So AMP, American Muslims for Palestine, back in March 21st, issued an action alert so you could tell your congressperson, you know, your feeling is that UNRWA should be funded, okay? So these are just some examples of what the action alerts are. I'm ICNA for ICNA Council for Social Justice. Here's the contact information. If you want to subscribe to our newsletter, that's the link. I gave this PDF file to Brother Brahim, and you can distribute it if whoever needs to, so you don't have to write this down. But we've got a national organization and a New Jersey organization. The Council on American Islamic Relations, the organization I used to be associated with, has a national organization and a New Jersey organization. They have, you know, like 6 or 7 full-time staff. They got a lot of people doing a lot of work, and they also issue action alerts that can be very helpful. I also recommend you subscribe to their newsletter. And then you've got AMP, American Muslims for Palestine. They've got a very active chapter here in New Jersey, headquartered in Patterson, and then a headquarters in Washington. They also, of course, their focus is Palestine. It's in their name. So if you really want to focus on that issue and see what the latest developments are and see what their action alerts are all about, I recommend you subscribe to their newsletter. And then AGP Action is sort of a sister organization of theirs. Same kind of thing. They're able to get a little more involved in politics because they're a 501c4 versus a 501c3. And we're out of time, so I'm not going to describe the difference in case anyone wants to know. And then Israel-Palestine News is a newsletter that's put out by If Americans Knew. This is run by non-Muslims. A woman who visited the West Bank decades ago and saw the injustices that were going on and has been publishing this newsletter ever since. A great source of information, very good reporting. If you want to know what's going on the ground in Palestine, I suggest you take a look at their website and possibly subscribe to the newsletter. And then Jewish Voice for Peace. Believe me, there are a lot of Jews that don't agree with the direction the Israeli government is going, okay? Right now, Netanyahu's government is a far-right government. There are a lot of Israelis that don't agree with the way this war is being prosecuted. So there's this organization, Jewish Voice for Peace. They have a lot of background, a lot of very strong knowledge about the situation, and they're very, very aggressively active about resisting the way this war is being prosecuted. And I recommend their newsletter. They do organize a lot of events, and besides the action alerts. So 2 Muslim organizations, Engage Action and Empower Change. I believe Empower Change is headed up by Linda Sarsour, for those who are familiar with Linda's work. And again, here's their information as far as subscribing. And WhatsApp. There's a couple of WhatsApp groups that are very relevant to what's going on in New Jersey now. So if you want to subscribe to the New Jersey Action and Events WhatsApp community, and on the latest version of this PowerPoint, there was another WhatsApp group to join. But they will tell you, on Princeton campus tomorrow, 4 o'clock, this is going on. Be there, okay? At Rutgers, this campus, 3 o'clock on Tuesday, be there. They have, all the flyers and all that about specifically what's going on in New Jersey as far as active events regarding Palestine. So I recommend that as well. So here's some examples of some things. We co-sponsored a rally, a car rally for Palestine. I think this is back in November. And then there's another example. This is the kind of things that you'll get from those WhatsApp groups, so you can stay on top of what's going on if you want to participate, inshallah. And you can see both of these have a number of these organizations I've just talked about are the sponsors. You've got Jewish Voice for Peace, you've got AMP, et cetera, I think on both these, and of course, Council for Social Justice. Okay. Meeting your representatives, you can of course call up your representative's office and say, I'd like to meet. Like I said, they all have district offices, offices here in New Jersey where you can go and meet with them. You could request a meeting. Likely, you'll probably meet a staffer, depending on who you are and what your issue is and how many people are coming and that kind of thing. You can you know, also join some of these larger events. Like I said, the U.S. CMO Advocacy Day just met with most of the congressmen down in Washington earlier this week. We also have a Muslim Day of Advocacy in Trenton that we co-sponsor. It's usually late fall, early winter, where we go down to Trenton and we talk about 5 or 6 issues. We try and set up as many meetings with assembly persons and state senators as we can. There are state level issues, of course. With Congress, there are federal level issues. If you subscribe to either the CARE newsletter or the CSJ newsletter, you'll be alerted about these events if you want to participate, inshallah. So you don't have to wait for another organization to establish an action or an event. You can write or set up a meeting with your congressman. Just know your issue, be clear about your position. Don't expect immediate response. They're always going to say, okay, we'll take your position into consideration. Then they're going to say, okay, you changed my mind, I'm going to vote this way. It just doesn't happen. And here's some links that'll help you find out who your representative is in Congress and who your state representatives are. Okay, so there's 12 Congress people. There are 40 state districts, so there's 40 state senators, and there's 2 assembly person per district, so there's 80 assembly people at this State House in Trenton. So, any questions? We're down to the end. I think we made it before Maghrib, inshallah.
Inshallah, for questions, we're only going to be taking questions through the phone number on the screen, so you could just text your questions there. The adhan for Maghrib is going to be in 2 minutes. So after the adhan, we're going to have 10 minutes until the iqamah. We're just going to try and quick fire as many of the questions as possible.
I guess, go ahead, inshallah. Alaikum salam. Yes. Right. Okay, so there's an organization that's called the something or other Holocaust something or other, and they have established a definition of anti-Semitism that has a number of bullet points. A couple of those bullet points have to do with criticizing Israel. Okay, some people will say, okay, that definition says you can't criticize Israel in any way, and that's not true. There are specific things you can't say. You can't compare Israel, according to this definition. If you compare Israel to the Nazis, they consider that anti-Semitism. So there's a few things, there's a number of bullet points, like 2 or 3 that actually mention Israel. So it does restrict what you can say about Israel. If they say those things are anti-Semitism, now saying those things about Israel becomes hate speech, okay? And frankly, hate speech is not illegal. You can say these things, okay? If you commit a crime and say these things, it becomes a hate crime. So that's a different thing. And there are certain other restrictions. There are certain schools, et cetera, or public institutions that have regulations about hate speech, and so this would now pertain to that. So they tried to pass this in New Jersey. I think the bill is still pending, and there's a bill before Congress to adopt this definition, and we should oppose it. The best thing to do is to subscribe to one of those newsletters, because then they'll give you a nice, easy thing where you can click, 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 and that's all you have to do to oppose it. But very good question.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Assalamu alaikum. I want to reiterate, please, we are not going to be taking any questions by hand. If you have any questions, please put it into the phone number. And if you don't have wudu right now, please go make wudu. Firstly, I want to start off by asking, I think most people here, we got a few questions on the phone number of it. Besides voting, like, what are things, especially for the people that aren't old enough to vote, but everybody in general, what are other things that we can do to, like, take action in order to help Palestine from here in America? And I think, like, an additional question specifically, what are we able to do to help the people, the brothers and sisters, the people that are at the encampments, at the universities?
Okay, as far as what else can you do? Yeah, you don't have to be of voting age to write your congressman. And basically what I was describing before is you just subscribe to the newsletters of some of these activist organizations, and then they will give you the opportunity to send an email to your representative, and you can voice your opinion that way. Other ways, of course, are participating in the rallies and protests, and making your voice heard. Go ahead. I'm trying to keep it short.
We have one other question that says, if you have to pick between the Republican and Democratic Party, does that mean you can only vote for that party that you chose?
No. It means that if you pick the Republican Party, for instance, it means that when you vote in the primary, you can only pick between Republican candidates. When it comes to the general election, you can vote for anybody you want, any party, Green Party, Republican, Democrat, or Independent. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much for your patience. If you have any other questions, inshallah, you can just talk to me after the prayer, inshallah.
Again, please make wudu and pray your sunnahs before salah. Jazakallah khair.